Here, you do it. Hello? No, I don't think so. Easy. You gotta buy me dinner.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Yay! Texas Pinball Fest 2026. We're getting our cameras and stuff sorted through, and we have Eugene Mosh and Matthew Talley, master techs, here to teach us all about troubleshooting your game. So we're past the general stuff of flipper rebuilds and cleaning your game, taking the glass off, and now this is like the next step of keeping your game working, how to diagnose an issue. It's going to be really reliant on one of your most important tools, which is a multimeter, and go from there, and you'll learn some great tips and tricks on hopefully how to get some of y'all's games working if you have any issues. Tomorrow, we are going to be doing an intro to pinball ownership class, so if y'all have any friends or family that are here at the show and that are hesitant to buy their first pinball machine or just bought their first pinball machine and haven't learned how to do the basic things like taking off the glass or how to clean the game, then have them come over tomorrow afternoon. That class will be for them. They'll get inspired, join us in the pinball collector hobby that we all love. And then right after that, we'll be doing Ask a Tech Anything. And so it's going to be a Q&A panel with like 5 or 6 of the master techs here at TPF. They're going to all be sitting here, and everyone will just kind of go in a row and be like, hey, I have these issues. My hard body sound isn't firing up. What kind of next step should I do? And then, you know, between all the groups of guys that are up here, hopefully we'll give you guys something to take home and work on your games next. So start thinking about what those questions are that you want to ask them. Yeah, try to stump Eugene. That's really going to be the
No, hard body.
MO.
Oh,
I
geez.
know. Yeah, I won't ask that question. I already know the answer. But yeah, we're almost set up with our handheld. That way we can jump really close up, and in the screen over here, you'll be able to kind of go back and forth and see those close shots of, I'm like, where is the camera? Oh, the camera's over here. Hi, everybody on the internet. Thanks for joining us. We miss you. We're going to figure out
Is
to...
that me? Squiggly? Oh.
I can also just use the webcam. Okay. We're getting our awesome new tech. We have a cool monitor. Thanks to the TPF seminar team, we are ready to go, is what I'm going to say.
He says the new monitor's not working.
Yeah. It's all good. We don't need it. All right.
All right. So today, I'm Matthew Talley, by the way. This is Eugene Marsh.
Marsh, I am Eugene Mosh on the groups, and on Pinside, I am pinball_Eugene, which I'm not on very much, but that's okay.
I've been working with Eugene a lot over the last few years, actually, like hitting him up and getting a bunch of tips. So this is a real fun blessing for me to be able to hang out with you and learn a bunch. And we're going to kind of walk through a bunch of stuff that everyone should know on troubleshooting a pinball machine. Different eras. We were going to bring 3 eras in here, but we only can fit 2, so this will still be good. Good diagnostics and how to figure out what's wrong and where to start and going from there, man. There's a lot to cover, so I think we're
Yeah.
just going to jump right into it. A lot of the topics we got, we're going to be going through like test modes, so like showing you the different test modes on the different eras of games on how to go through and basic, light test, solenoid test, kind of diagnose, see if everything's working that way, and then we're going to get deeper into that by getting into the multimeter, how to use that, and then a lot of common issues of like testing voltage points, test points up in the boards, and where to find that and how to do that safely so you don't short out anything else and damage your game even more. So Eugene is getting his multimeter together here, and we'll kind of...
Will that be able to go on the big screen? Oh,
yeah, there we go. We're up there. So yeah, we're not necessarily going to go straight in this order, but we're going to kind of dance around a little bit in it and try to get all these points hit. So, starting off, the multimeter. Multimeter is your best friend when you are diagnosing games, and so I'll let Eugene kind of go through the different settings and stuff like that, what you're looking to be using and where and
Yep.
how.
so like I said, my name is Eugene, and we're going to go over a lot of the basic functions of a pinball: display, sounds, music, switches, lamps, coils. And all that stuff kind of relates to if the game even boots up and turns on. So if the game does not boot up and turn on, where do I start? My game is not booting up. Well, one of the first things would be, we always say ASAP, always start with power.
I like that. ASAP.
ASAP, always start with power. So a multimeter has two functions. It has DC and AC voltage. I always say it like this because if you say DC AC, then people aren't thinking you're referring to the rock band right off the bat. So there is, we have to go a little bit closer here. So in every game, now on new Stern pinball machines, I'll go to that a little bit too when we talk about coils. Stern pinball machines, man, they obviously play. You got flippers, coils, ramps, and all that stuff. But man, there is only like 4 things in a new Stern. You have one power supply, you have one main computer board, and then everything else is an I/O related board and the node board, we call it a node board, that drives your coils. So there is not much. If one switch goes bad, if one coil goes bad, it's only a couple different things.
It's
But
not too hard to diagnose on a new Stern.
Yeah, new Stern, man, is, we had a problem with the KISS that it froze on the Stern screen. And we replaced it with the SD card and uploaded the new code, and bam, it worked. It's been working since. We have not had a node board problem at all, and I haven't had any cable problems. I've had a broken switch in my Ghostbusters about every 4 to 6 months. We have a premium. When it goes down the thing, it must just hit so hard. We have those on hand all the time because that switch, when it goes into the sewer, breaks frequently. I'm very thankful for that because our games are played a lot. At some of my local people here, I run 2 arcades in Marshfield, the Retro Zone Arcade of Marshfield. We got 20 pins, and 1984 Arcade in Springfield is about 19 pins. But nevertheless, this game has a big, giant transformer that puts out step-down AC voltages, and they get broken down. And this particular game has about 6 voltages. You got your 15, your 5, your coil voltage, audio voltage, and then you have plus and minus for high voltage. So one of the first things you want to do, if it's dead, to see if you actually, is your MPU even booting up, things like that. If we have 12 volts, first thing we want to check if we have 12 volts. And in this case we do, and then if we have 5 volts, and we do. So I actually have some parts and some pictures of games that might not have 5 volts. If you don't have 5 volts, that's the one with the leaky caps. Let's say you don't have 12 volts, or you do have 12 volts and no 5 volts. This particular picture is from a Data East machine. Now, Data East, unfortunately, we have a special guest in the crowd here, Mr. Todd Tuckey might know that Daddy used to use very cheap capacitors, crapacitors as he calls them. And Williams did not actually have that problem like Daddy East. Daddy East, man, it is leaky cap after another. And so if you have no 5 volts generated from the power supply, you will not get your MPU to boot up. So in that picture, you can see there's actually two of them up there that are actually real bad.
Top right, you can see all that black mess that has the capacitor leaking has now destroyed
a trace.
Destroyed a trace, top left.
And then that other
right.
one. So, Williams is actually a little more better. They use better fuse clips too. We'll talk about that too. So, and then we have 5 volts, and if we have that, and then, if you have 5 volts and 12 volts at the MPU board and it's not booting, there's lots of factors that could cause your MPU board not to boot up. Program, processor, things like that. We actually have another picture of a processor that's green, the corroded socket, and so, that could be that. So I get that in the groups. My game is not booting up, Eugene. What do I do? And the first thing I asked him is pictures of the boards, and I get pictures of the boards, and lo and behold, I get one, and then the guy, they're oblivious. A lot of people don't even know there's batteries in the game. Gosh, Eugene, I didn't even know there was batteries in the game. And yes, sometimes I almost want to think that was like a engineering ploy to continue buying boards, or But these games, when they came out back in the day, now Grand Lizard was, gosh darn it, I want to think it was 87, I think. It was definitely mid-'80s. Games were only really last about 5 years on routes and on locations. They made their money in everywhere, laundromats and Chuck E. Cheese and movie theaters, and everywhere were out to make money. And then usually when 5 years are up, they got rid of the game and they got the new, latest, greatest game. As pinball people know, some new games were not the latest and greatest, but nevertheless, this is the age of the pinball resurgence, which is about maybe 15 years ago. It's been slowly happening, and every year it's getting bigger, bigger, and better and better. Obviously, if you go out there, you see all homebrews. Homebrews, 10 years ago, there might have been 1 or 2, and now there's a whole homebrew section, which is very neat that you're getting these young entrepreneurs, anybody is just so fascinated by wanting to make their own design. So you have original titles and newer titles. But nevertheless, we get into the point where the MPU is booting up. So, okay, Eugene, man, my MPU boots up. Now what do I do? So, but I got no displays. Let's say it's running. You can obviously see in here it's running. This is running. Let's say you didn't have any displays. So the next thing you want to ask them is if you have high voltage. Do you have any high voltage at the board? Things like that. So this particular game uses old, we'll say original, before I blow myself up here. We have original displays in this Grand Lizard. This game is donated from Maxwell Harrison. He's a local Texas person, and has original displays.
So when you're setting up your multimeter, you have got one lead going to ground, correct?
Yes, one lead is ground. This particular game has a braid that goes through the whole game, which is ground, so I got it clipped on ground. Every screw hole, though, so I always tell people this, where's ground, where's ground? Every screw hole, because this whole back panel is a ground, so if this game hits by lightning, you are probably looking at a biggest paperweight. But nevertheless, screw hole is ground. We can actually even test that theory to show you people that. So we got ground here, and then we should have a negative. Oh, that's ground. There we go. Oh my gosh, what's going on here? Shoot. I do have a huge hum in this game, so I am not sure. Did my meter come out? Well, nevertheless, ground is ground. Actually, there is a ground in the middle here. There actually is a ground test point. Did I just lose my meter? Oh, I'm on AC. Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. There we go.
See the difference between, you have AC voltage and DC voltage. So the AC voltage comes out of the transformer, goes into the power supply, and gets converted into DC. That's a perfect example of AC and DC voltage. So here's a ground screw, should have 120 volts, bam. All right, and then we should have negative up here, that's ground, negative, bam. So these particular displays run on plus and minus 100 volts. So if there's no displays, I tell the people there's an orange glow. You can actually look in here on the side, and they actually emit a orange glow if there's high voltage. If there's not, then master glass could be dead or no high voltage. Another thing with these games, we call it a blanking signal. Blanking signal is actually enabled about, I don't know, half a second after the game comes on, and then everything turns on. Lamps, displays, coils, and all that gets enabled. So I had a recent case recently. Eugene, that's how it usually starts. Hey, Eugene.
Yeah. Always.
Hey, I just got my boards back from repair. What's going on? My Black Knight is not, I don't have no displays. Well, you have orange glow? I have orange glow. I have high voltage, everything. What's going on? He actually showed me a picture of what's going on. He showed me a picture of all his boards. This happens to be a System 11, but he showed me a System 7 pictures. And as soon as I said, I go, oh, your blanking signal is not connected. And he goes, what? And I circled the area, and then he goes, oh, man, the connector was tucked behind the board. Hey, we're all good now. So, there's things like that where...
you gave me that, too. I sent you a photo when I was working on a Simpsons pinball party. And I was like, there's no displays. And you're like, your connector's in the wrong spot. I was like, oh, my God. So taking photos when you're taking apart your boards is also a very good plan. So always take photos before you unplug everything and make sure you can get everything back in the right spot. Because even, we do the same thing.
Do the same thing. Cases where your display, you got a master display ribbon, here's sound, but you have a master display ribbon cable that comes out of this board and goes to this board and is obviously divides out. I've had people, Eugene, I got my game back and I got, I don't know, pixelated garbage and stuff that's not on the screen and it's moving. And I'm like, show me a picture. And he actually had the thing reversed, so pin 1. So if you'll notice on all these cables in these games, we had a Dolly Parton we did not bring, but that game has the same thing. But all these cables have a red stripe. And I always tell people that pin 1, red stripe, pin 1, the red stripe, pin 1. So I think, oh, Eugene, it was on backwards. Okay, we're all good, great. I'm not going to show some of those examples now, but this, like I said, this is not my game. I will show some of the other examples. So, okay, great, we got displays. Eugene, I have no sound in my game. Oh. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Yeah, this game. It's got a sound test button. Oh, okay. Eugene, I'm getting no sound when I start my game. Same concept. Is your ribbon cables in correctly, pin 1 to pin 1. And this particular board runs on plus and minus 15 or plus and minus 12 and 5 volts. So had the same thing recently. Eugene, this was in a Cyclone. Got my boards back. I got now a Cyclone game has speech and sounds generated on both boards. So a System 11 board, you got speech and sounds generated here, and it has a different soundboard. Speech and sounds are generated on the separate soundboard. And his particular game wasn't producing, I don't know, some certain speech, right? And I'm like, oh, I actually had an idea what was wrong with it. And he tells me my connectors are all connected incorrectly, my interconnector, my volume pot's in the right spot, okay, ribbon cable's brand new, okay. I got my voltages, and I go, are you sure you have your voltages? And he goes, yeah, well, game's on. I got my, Well, this game does not need negative 15 to boot up, but it does need negative 15 for the DAC signals to work. So he measures his meter, and down at the power connector, he goes, oh my gosh, I don't have my negative 15. Now, these are called IDE connectors, and the wire actually came out halfway. I don't know if you want me to get in here and look at that, but...
Yeah, get close.
So these are IDE connectors. There's actually a big, giant crimping machine at the factory, and they just go down the line, ka-chink, 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 when they make these. So obviously this game is, 1987, 40 years old, and we got plus 12, we got negative 15. This particular wire was not in its spot. Even though it looked like it was not. So he did the old locations just wanted it fixed, and the operator didn't care how. He did not repin it. correctly and put a screwdriver and shove the wire back in. So he did that. So we had Tech Day on Wednesday. This guy, let's see what we got back here. Here we go. So we had Tech Day on Wednesday, and about 10 technicians and from all over. Todd brought Frank. Chuck was here walking around, and other people. Matthew was here. Brian was there, and people just brought in different things. We had a Dolly Parton and just a F-14 and this and that. So I was working on an F-14 for a guy, and he had, now this particular connector is repinned, which is great. So as I'm working on, his only problem he mentioned was a pop bumper, and as we circle around this game, it had multiple things. Todd is going to show a video of that later on in his channel, but nevertheless, the switch connector was green. This one's actually been repinned and all this craziness. And we get to the power supply because it was original. I go, let me recap this, because we want this game to work all weekend. And then when you go home too. So I get to it, and a bunch of wires were actually soldered to the GI section. Here is half of the connector. You can see how burnt it is. The other one was just crispy cream, and it broke apart. But this is half of it. And I ended up using the other, reprinting with brand new pins and everything like that. So another example of no sound, volume pot. These volume pots are, 40 years old. And you can actually hear the static in them when you turn them up and down. I don't know if you can hear that or not. The volume pot's right here in the coin door. But there's static. So when the volume pot sits in the exact same place for many, many, many years, the carbon in the wipe will burn a spot in that. And so sometimes Eugene, I just got my boards back in my Lethal Weapon 3. Got everything working great. I got no sound. Now, again, Todd, I keep referencing Todd because he might know this because he's been as old as dinosaurs, but nevertheless, we love you, Todd. We love you, Todd. So he gets the game, and I get a lot of people that ask me this when they send me boards, and in this case, Data East. When they made it from the factory, they actually put a 330 ohm resistor in line with the volume pot. And that way it would never turn down all the way. Eugene, this game is in my house. My wife is driving me crazy. She says, this is too loud, please. I don't mind the game being here, but I got Joe Pesci going, hey, all the time, and I can't, this is driving me crazy. When you bulletproof my boards, can you please do something with the volume? Yeah, absolutely, I know exactly what's wrong. The 330 ohm will not let it go down all the way, so I put a 47 in it, and what happens is that makes that wipe, in a different value. So when he got his boards back, the volume was all the way down, because he had his pot all the way down.
So he said that sound wasn't working.
Sound wasn't working, and I'm like, what's going, I would think, I go, look, I'm getting ready for Texas. I got to go here. So everything's connected, and he finally texted me and said, hey, Eugene, I got it working. The volume was all the way down. But nevertheless, you get to the point where you got everything working, and you actually might have a soundboard problem. Processor, program, buffer, PI, you never know. So, there's some things to check, certain things to check, and the book and manual. A lot of these games are very detailed. Eugene, I can't find this and that, I have been doing this for X amount of years, multiple decades, and so I know how to read books and prints very well. So the books and prints tell you, they give you pictures of the boards, and they actually give you pictures of what the voltages are actually supposed to be in relative to ground. So if you know how to use a meter, and you have a meter, know how to use it. So I help people on the phone quite often about where to put ground and how to check test points of things like that. So, that's kind of it on display. So now let's say our game is working, and we're going to go to, what do you want to go to? Do you want to go to lamps and switches? Because
yeah, let's do lamps.
Coils might take a little bit of time. So
let's check out this burnt lamp transistor.
Okay, so let's go to lamps. So we had a Dolly Parton here. Dolly Parton was part of Tech Day, and was actually the first game. They just go to a game. So everybody got went to a game, and so I get to a game, And this was a Dolly Parton. I think it was yours and some that you know that you got it from, so it's been in this full circle.
Yeah, it was Nick Shell sold it to us.
Oh, that's
a long
right, that's
time
right.
ago, yeah, so it's
Yep.
pretty neat to bring back to Texas.
Yep, so another thing with pinball repair, hands on to Nick Shell. He is a EM genius. Him and Wyatt are here helping with everybody that has EM machines. I am not an EM tech. I don't. I just, it's something I was not trained on. My guys from Marshfield that are here in the back, they've been sticking with Nick and Wyatt this whole time and learning about EM repair. So that is so wonderful because I get a lot of calls on that. And I don't know, I go, I don't know, man, I'm so sorry. They've actually passed away. I've known people that were EM geniuses. Kerry Wing's father was just an EM genius, and Richard Hammond from St. Louis, just an EM genius, and they've passed. And I just don't know anybody, but our kids are going to be learning this, and that's going to be wonderful. But anyways, back to Dolly. The lights, the controlled lamps, this is called controlled lamps. In the book in Dolly, they call it switched illuminated. I'm not sure why, but nevertheless, controlled lamps is controlled from the computer. And this particular case, it came on there very dim. And if you actually put it in test mode,
They would light back up again.
they would virtually
dim out.
disappear when they would all come on. And so I had all new Marco boards in it, which was cool. And it had
all new All-Tech boards. Yeah.
All-Tech boards that we can get from
Marco.
Marco Specialties. And it actually even had a new rectifier board in it. So I was like, man, it's got a rectifier board. It's obviously voltage. So had to take the whole thing off, the Bally game, the transformer. It was, turn this down. Never mind, it's okay. The transformer, on a Dolly game has a rectifier board attached to it, and it's all soldered wires to the single board. So you cannot really get to it very well, and you kind of maneuver it a little bit. So I actually maneuvered it off, put a bunch of bubble wrap behind it, and turned it on. And it's very careful. And looking at the book and manual, it had its correct AC voltage going in. It had about 7.5 volts going in. Okay, switched my meter to DC and measured it, and had 3 volts coming out of it. I go, okay, it's not a shorted bridge. It has an open diode in a bridge. So a bridge has 4 diodes in one bridge. And what it does, it rectifies AC into half-wave DC. And then if you put capacitors on it and things like that, you can get it into solid DC. So in Dolly, it uses unregulated DC for the lamps. I have a bridge. I bought everything I can think of I can bring for board repair, and I brought a new bridge, desoldered it, put a new bridge in, bam, worked great.
Full power.
Full power, super bright,
So again, always
and
start
lights.
with power.
So, I don't know, you ever got that video? I don't know how where's this is going to work with the,
Yeah, she can zoom in on it.
you can zoom in. So here's a short video of I was shopping out a blackout game, and I had it all on, did all the boards and everything, and turned it on, and the blackout game had lamps. It had lamps that were fading out. So if you look real close, you see how they dimmed out. See that? So I was thinking to myself, oh, I just rebuilt the boards. The boards work great on my bench, right? Before I take the board back out, let's measure the capacitor voltage right there. So there's a big giant cap on the back of the game. And I measured it, 12 volts, Todd, 12. It's supposed to be 18, okay? Switch it to AC to check the ripple. Oh my gosh, we got 6 and 7 volts of AC ripple. So what I did was replace the cap. Let's see if I got another video of that. It's 27 seconds, here it is. So I replaced the cap. I actually didn't install it, it had clip leads, and if you look real close, you can see how bright it is. The lights are actually going off and on instantaneous like they're supposed to. And let's see if I got video of the voltage. Oh, my meter wasn't hooked up, darn it. So he measures the meter, bam, 17 volts solid. And then I flipped over to AC ripple to make sure. We had very low AC ripple. Oh, I did not show the AC ripple. So it was.
Explain AC ripple some more.
So AC ripple on pinball machines, going back to the very beginning where there's a transformer. Transformer is AC. We call it AC. It's full wave. It's Tesla invented it. No, he didn't invent it, but he was able to figure out how to use it. And going back to the dolly where the lamps used half wave. So when you put it into a bridge, it comes out half wave. So it's full AC. It's a sine wave. The bridge brings it into half wave. We call that. So it's half of the AC. And then capacitors bring it into a solid line, straight DC. So when capacitors are weak and capacitors go bad, you actually get that AC ripple, we call AC ripple, into the DC. And if you can listen to this, you can hear hum. But that's actually because this game is so old, and you know, he's got caps in it and everything, so this game probably had a louder hum.
Louder hum.
But nevertheless, that particular cap, this cap right here, in this game, actually, all these older games have them. Can you see it? That one right there. So all these older games, System 11, Systems 3 through 11, all have a big cap in the back. Now we get to No Fear. I'll show you. No Fear has it on the power driver board. They actually don't have the big cap. They do have a big cap, but it's on the power driver board. So, man, that is a rare case, actually, to have those older caps go bad. I've had to replace, I don't know, I had one that was actually physically leaking material in a Black Knight. That was about maybe 10, 15 years ago. And then recently, besides that blackout I just showed you, I had one in a space shuttle. And same thing. That was very ripple, man. He had maybe 2 volts of DC, and oh, it was crazy. Yes, sir. Yes. 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 Right. So going back to what Matthew asked me about what is DC or AC and DC is that the cap gets rectified by capacitor. Here is the rectifier for a bridge. Now Harrison Maxwell actually put brand new bridges, and they're actually fused because some of these older games were not fused. And if your game has the wrong fuses, which I've seen many times where people will put anything in here, and these are supposed to be certain values, half amp, 8 amp. This has magnets, so that's 20 amp, and then coils are 2.5. And they blow a fuse, and people will put anything in it. So if your game is not fused correctly and you got some sort of lamp problem, people talk about horror stories. I have never had that case where the game catches on fire, you know, instead of blowing the fuse because it's so overfused. But nevertheless, Harris has it in here, and Todd was talking about that the bridges actually have lugs on them, and a lot of times in the factory, they actually get soldered on the lugs because of vibration. People playing the game, tournament people will shake, nudge, and things get loose. And that's what happened sometimes in those games where the power lugs on the bridges would come off. So this particular case, this is actually a great thing to have your wires soldered directly to the circuit board of this bridge. And it's actually mounted to the back box, which is actually also conducts as a heat sink. So we're actually going to take this to the hood here and show you some examples of lamps. So,
going underneath.
So, hey Eugene.
Oh yeah, we're going to talk about the transistors.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, we're going to go back to that. So, in this particular case, hey Eugene, I got my game running and everything, but man, I got like this, the lamps matrix is an 8x8 grid. There's 8 rows and 8 columns. So you got 64 lamps. Some games don't use them all. Some games use more than 64, and you might see an auxiliary board on the side, like what can I think of? KISS. KISS is a good example. It has a lot more lights.
Oh,
things like that. So that auxiliary board, comes from something like that. But, hey, Eugene, man, my lamps are running great, but I got 8 lights on here that are halfway on. They're halfway stuck on, and they're kind of fading as they're working. I'm not sure what's going on. And I go, well, he sent me the board for repair, and that's the front of the board. If you look at the front of the board, if you look at that picture of my X-Acto knife is, you can actually see a bead of silicon coming out of that transistor. It actually overheated. And then here's the back side of it. You can see it got extra hot, so that transistor was bad. So I actually took a picture of that. I normally don't I just normally don't do that, but I know this was coming up the last couple months, so I wanted to get a couple pictures and videos.
I don't think I've ever seen anything leaking out of the front like that either.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you took that.
You know what? Actually, on transistors on special solenoids, you could see that when those special solenoid circuits lock on. I've seen that too. So we'll get into that when we get into coils. So that guy happened to send me the board. I changed the transistor for him, and it's got super bright stuff. So let's shut this because we don't want the play field to touch anything in the GI and blow Harrison's game out. So this is what we call under the hood. So we got 8x8 matrix, 8 rows and 8 columns. And I'm going to show you something else here in a second here in the back box, but we're going to show you something first. So let's take a light. Take any light. And we're just going to short the diode. So, hey, Eugene. Did the diode come off? I got one light. It's actually extra bright. It stays on all the time. I don't know if you can see that or not. Unfortunately, this game is not going into test mode, which bums me out because I really wanted to show you that. So, switches, we'll get into switches, but switches also have diodes in the 8x8 matrix. So, lamps, the computer senses timing within the lamp drive. We call it lamp drive, well, lamp row, whatever it is. And it's microscopically clock waves. And they're spaced out, and each one has its own timing. The computer knows which timing is what. That's why we can get all these different lights on in all different times, because there's so much, the timing is just going crazy, rapid eye movement. It's just going crazy. That's how we get individual lights to come on, or multiple at one time when other ones are not coming on. That's how they invented the 8x8 matrix. Dolly Parton in those early games did not do that. Dolly Parton in those early Bally games had individual transistors for each individual light. So I could not short the diode on actually they don't even have diodes because they're individually turned on. If I touch the lamp together, it's going to blow the transistor, and the guy's going to be extremely mad, and I don't want that to happen. So on a matrix, hey, Eugene, I got one light that just seems to be staying all the time. Or I have 2 lights that are not coming on. So since this is an 8x8 matrix grid, if you have only 2 lights not working or one that's staying on bright like that, diode is shorted, which I showed you. And if 2 lights are not coming on, you have something that like a broken looped wire. If you look real close, you see that an 8x8 matrix grid, 8 of them are tied together. So 2 are not coming on, and you could have seen it many, many times. One broken wire that goes to this bulb, to that bulb, to that bulb, could be broken, and some are coming on and some are not coming on. If you have an open diode, it will also not come on. So an easy way to check if it's your socket, bad sockets too will do that. These games are 40 years old. Marco Specialty sells a cleaning socket. What the heck's that thing
the
called?
socket cleaner, yeah.
Yeah, it looks like a giant pencil, and I don't know, it's the size of a socket bulb, a bayonet, and I put them on my drill when the game is all apart and all the bulbs are out, and I just go boop, 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 clean them all at the same time. That's what I do.
And being able to find, so if you have multiple lights off, so going to the matrix in your manual,
yep,
checking to find what is in that line and kind of do some detective work and figure out where that one wire might be broken off.
Right, so if you do have all 8 bulbs out, Eugene, I have 8 bulbs that are not working. So this is what you can try, this is what not try to do, this is what you can do. is you actually can take off, well, that's switches. Shoot. This is actually a little bit difficult up on the top here. Nevertheless, you can take the whole connector off, and you can actually plug in one pin at a time. So if you look, certain lights came on, and you can just go down the row, down the row. So since this is red, whatever it is, red, brown, you just touch them all, dink, 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 and oh man, number 7 is not coming on. Oh my gosh. So that would be a board problem. If they all come on, you're not making continuity from the board connector to the play field. So in this particular game, connectors are so old, man. But nevertheless, that's how you can check if you have a board problem. And then you can either use your meter and find the transistor, could be a buffer. And you can also do that same example with the column, the yellow wires. So great thing about Williams games, and actually even Data East happened to, that's how Data East actually started, was the system of their Vision 1 board. I forget what game they took it from, but nevertheless, every game from Williams System 3, even through WPC 95, every colored wire is the same. Red and yellow is your lamp matrix. White and green is your switches. Purple and gray is coils. Solid gray is power. Black is ground. Black and white is negative. Or gray yellows, positive. The book all explains that. Lamp power. You got your violet that comes off the bridge, goes into the power supply, goes to the fuse, comes out. Black is ground. Solid blue is your lamp matrix. Goes over here. Hey, Eugene, man, none of my lights work. What is going on here? I have voltage at the fuse, but I don't have it, let's say you don't have it over here at the board. So there's actually a choke on the board that sometimes can break at the seam, or let's say you don't have it at the fuse, I have it at the bridge. So you just have to do your detective work like Matthew mentioned about, you just got to backtrack. If I don't have, if I have 18 volts at my cap, and I have it at the, obviously the bridge, maybe you got a broken wire at your connector or your fuse holder.
I got you.
Is burnt. Oh, you got the little bag? Okay. So this was, oh boy, look at this. Can you see that? So this was a game we were working on at Tech Day. It was Jungle Lord. And we fixed his coil, and he's playing it, and GI went out right in front of us. And I went, oh, looking at it, and I went, oh man, look at that stuff. Touched with the screwdriver, boop, came back on. Untouched it, went out. Boop. I go, this is so burnt and charred. He goes, oh yeah, what do? I go, I'll get you some new fuse cups. And get you new thing you're thinking about.
Yeah, and then on the screen we also are showing one where it's just broken open, where like they pushed
So,
the fuse in too hard and it just popped open, so now it's not making any contact whatsoever.
Not to talk bad about Data East, but Data East, because they are Stern now, Data East was bought by Stern, used the cheapest caps and the cheapest fuse clips. And when you get that back in there, oh, it's on the wall? Yeah. So if you look in this picture here, you can see it actually has the fuses in it, but you can actually look and see the fuse clips are broken over. So how the easiest way to test fuse clips is take the fuse out and squeeze it with a pair of needle nose, and they spring back. Man, that's great. If they go and break, they will not solder back in place. I've seen many people try to solder the fuse to the broken fuse clip that's broken at the seam, and it's just, it actually makes it worse to desolder because now I got all this
I've
tape
tried
on
it.
solder. What the?
I've tried it.
That's terrible.
It didn't work.
Yeah,
Yeah,
on the
it didn't
field.
work.
No,
So I had
no.
to get a new fuse clip and put that in there, but I definitely tried.
So we're going to go into switches because lamp matrix 8x8 grid switches. Gosh, I wish this thing went to test. We'll do that on that, no fear. But nevertheless, switches work on the same way. Since this game does not go on a test, we are going to go move over to this. So this thing's not working? Okay. So switches, same thing, work on an 8x8 grid. And same concept. If you have one or two switches are not working, it is not the board. Because all 8 switches, all 8 switches work. If 2 are not working on the board, you have a broken looped wire or usually it's a broken diode. So unlike lamps that run a higher voltage through the lamps, switch diodes rarely go bad. And just rarely go bad, they just never do. They do break away from the switch contact. I've seen that many times. The game vibrates, the thing, shaker motors, roadshow, there's lots of games that have shaker motors. The game shakes. I mean, eventually stuff is going to come loose.
So the difference between lamp voltage and switch voltage?
Yep.
So lamp voltage is
18,
and
which
then
gets dumbed down to high current bulbs. Obviously, it's 6.5 volts, but that's still, I don't know, it's a lot more. And then switch matrix is about 4.5 as it gets dumbed down. Yep, because it goes through resistors and stuff like that. So unless you are, now this particular game, I'm getting a big echo right here. Let me move over. This particular game has a safety switch in it where it kills the 50 volts and it kills the 22 volts. So, Eugene, my game was working great. It was working great, and I was putting LEDs in it with the power on. And now I don't have any switches working. Well, you probably accidentally touched the lamp socket to a green or white stripe, and then blows the transistor on the board. So this particular game has a safety switch that kills the high voltage and coil voltage. So you actually can do that. Sometimes I actually don't recommend that unless you have done that many times before, because you just want to try to do stuff with the power off. But as someone that likes to do LEDs with the power on to make sure it's the right angle, the right spot, and the right sometimes I
color temperature and
color temperature. I'm not a fan of colored bulbs and lenses because it washes out. But sometimes you have yellow and off-white, things like that, and I might put a red into a yellow to maybe make it a little different on like whirlwind and stuff like that. So on switches, let's see if we can do this here, since we have this in test. So same concept of doing the angle. This game has opto, so everything came on. So in test mode, this is a little different with the thing down, but it actually has the same concept. Let's see if I can do this with the jumper cable. Let's see if I can do that here, Mr. Talley and Miss Imoto.
No, I'm gonna hold that.
Before I blow anything up here. We don't want to do that. Actually, this is a great example. This is a great example of people, switches are not working. So shows the grid on this. This particular game does not use all the switches. In fact, it uses a lot of optos in this game, which is very cool. I actually own a No Fear. The kids in the back there, they love it. Shout out to the Cannons that are here. Oh, Caden? Caden's here. So what you can do is I tell people this. We'll do the switch now. How do you do that? Now, I don't use a diode when I do this. Some people want to use a diode. There's a diode in all the switches, goes one way. I don't use a diode. It's a low-level electronics. They're doing this hundreds of thousands of years. I might be older than dinosaurs if you want to think about it compared to Todd. So let's do this. So you touch one wire, and only one number comes up. You see that? If I can get there close. One comes up. So Eugene, I touched one wire, and they all go ding, 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 like that. I'm touching one, and they all do that. I go, oh, your board's bad. But if you do that to every one number only comes up. So if you look at the switch matrix grid, you touch one switch, one color, you only get one come up, because this works on the same exact concept of timing. It's strobing microscopically timing signals. Some are 0.001, next one might be 0.002, 3. So the computer knows the timing of the switch matrix. So if you do 1 to 1 and multiple switches comes up, then you know you have a bad board. All right, does everybody
when you say bad board, is it multiple things in the board, or is it
not
whittled
usually.
down into one?
WPC games, have a transistor grid array chip, and usually it's that chip that gets blown out. Sometimes it's just at time, but usually it's when you're working on games. Also, I've seen this case where there's a coil or a flasher lamp that is very close. If you look at some of these games, you get like Twilight Zone, Addams Family, F-14. There is so much underneath the hood, and stuff is so close. And you got these players, man, want to slap save. They want to be number one with IFPA. You're killing my game. Knock it off. So you're right. And a lamp or flasher might touch a switch wire. I'm actually guilty of this. We had a tournament one time on a Road Kings, and Eugene, the flipper, there's something wrong with it. It's acting up. And I go, okay, we'll get into this when we get the coils. But the EOS switch, if people play Road Kings, it actually has a lane change up top. So you have your EOS switch and you have a lane change switch that's stacked on top of that. And me was adjusting the EOS switch with the power on with my steel adjuster tool, and next thing you know, the whole row of switches went out. And it was right in the middle of the tournament. We were doing King of the Road Kings. You played one game and you won, you moved on, and what are we gonna do, Eugene? Just give me a second here, give me a second. So we started another round. I might have opted out of that round, and I went to go fix the board, take it out, lo and behold, transistor shorted. Bzz, oh no. So Landon actually helped me out on that, got out his Heiko, swapped it, took about 7-10 minutes, put it back in, it was working great. So there's an example of trying to adjust something with power on and blowing my board up. But nevertheless, I know better. I should know better to not do that. But stuff happens, and Vin was actually able to fix it. So I think anything else on switches? Just not much.
You want to do like leaf versus micro and talk about those?
Which one?
Leaf switches versus micro switches.
Okay. So, are all the balls out of this?
No.
Williams games do not have a safety feature like is it Gottlieb? Is it Gottlieb, Todd?
The safety feature.
Safety feature for the balls when you lift the playfield up? Is it Gottlieb? Oh, okay. Oh, Pinball 2000. That's right. Now, this particular game does have the safety. I actually forgot about that. Now, Matthew actually put in something very cool. Is this also available at Marco?
It was a friend of mine that owned it before me, and he put in this neat little...
This particular game actually had the whole trough bracket modified to have the safety switch put in, which is very cool. So that means safety switch is when you lift the playfield up like that, and the pinballs don't go chunk, 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 and then they're the back of the game. So
breaking plastics all the way down.
All the way down. So in reflex, I always take them out. So Matthew mentioned about between leaf and regular. So here are micro switches. Here's a micro switch here. So all a micro switch is when the ball lands on a switch, it actually has internal micro switch, like an arcade game, like Mortal Kombat. They have all micro switches in your joysticks. Back in the early 80s, the early joysticks actually had leaf switches. Now, leaf switches are actually in the picture. And this particular game, like most games, have leaf switches for your slingshots. So what that means is when you barely touch the rubber to the leaf switch, computer sees the switch, activates the sling, throws it. So this game actually has both micro, and it also has opto-sensor switches. Opto-sensors are infrared that are on the, here's one right here. On the habit trail, gosh darn it, Brian, what's this called? No, this thing. Subway. When this one has subway, so when the ball crosses, now switches are normally open. Optos are normally closed because it's always emitting a beam. So when you cross the beam, it opens. So the computer actually senses the opposite. So when it lands on a micro switch, normally open, normally closed. A beam is normally closed. When it crosses it, it's actually normally open. Hey, Eugene, my subway trough is not working. So back in the day, I learned this at a distributorship. I used to work at a couple of distributors. And before I actually did machine repair, I actually only did circuit board repair. And I probably didn't learn on machines until the late 90s. And so I've probably been working on circuit boards for 10 years maybe. So that actually probably helped me a lot to work on the machines, to work on the boards first. Nevertheless, I worked at a distributorship and they used to show us how to tell if a emitter is shining and it was on your camera phone. Back then, camera phones were just being invented back in the 90s, 2000s, and you can shine your camera into the emitter and you can actually see a pinhole light. Oh wow, so the emitter is beaming out the light.
I think you have to put it in like the selfie mode and then hold it up to it, and then you can see the actual purple light from the emitter coming into your phone.
Right.
Yes.
So optos, these homebrews, I actually don't know much. I'm sure they would probably do both optos and switches all through it. So a emitter opto shines a beam of light all the time. It uses a gray wire and your ground, so it's always beaming out light. And then the receiver is actually your switch. That's part of your opto board. Here's the opto board. So all the optos go into your opto board, which get converted into your low-level logic and goes back into your MPU board. So when did I buy that white water? I bought a white water from a guy. It was earlier this year. He's getting, God rest his soul, he did not pass away, but he's getting older. He's getting me my games. Eugene gave me the first option on his white water. And that works, mostly works. Like I got some optos out. He replaced some optos, and after going through it, I realized that all of the optos were burned out. So optos, like I said, run on voltage in the back block. We'll get that in a minute. And after going through the boards and stuff, the opto voltage was 18 volts. It's too much. And it's supposed to be about 14 and a half. So all of the optos burned out, and he was actually putting new ones in without knowing this. And so when I got the game and I'm going through it going, why are all these optos either finicky, in test mode, they're like flickering. I'm like, what is going on? So realizing that the higher voltage after measuring voltage, because the game did boot up, and I was going to go through the boards and I measured the voltage and it was like 18 and a half. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's why I killed it. Rebuilt the boards, changed all the opto transmitters, all the optos instantaneously worked. So that was very nice to do that. So these games are getting up there. I mean, this is 1995, I think. Yeah, about 95.
Yeah, right around there.
So we got 95, see my math is right, 05, 15, 25, so, we're getting to 31, 32 years old on a no fear. And this happens to be one of those games they say is, and I guess in tournaments would be a medium grade, Ryan?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
because
so
then
this
the
would be medium.
LCDs are now modern.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
this is like your mid-modern.
Yeah, mid-modern. So,
Yeah,
yeah, my particular arcades I help run, we have very few Sterns. All our games are early stuff, Lucky 7, Black Pyramid, Space Shuttle, Space Station, We do have a Godzilla, we have an AIQ, I have a Superman, and, so having some older games, tournaments can run pretty fast. So, but I do have a no fear, which is very, very cool. What
The
else?
other thing with optos is like they are like eyeballs. So all that dust, coil dust and stuff can also block that beam from getting in there and cleaning it with like a Q-tip. I heard Todd during our tech session saying the flipper opto boards. So you got flipper opto boards down here that work the flippers. So if your flippers are, you're noticing they're being like sluggish, and it's just not really getting up those ramps. If you actually take a Q-tip and clean these little eyeballs inside behind your interrupter there, that'll help get fresh power as soon as
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow.
We did the same. We were at Golden State Pinball Festival, and I took Stranger Things, and we had it underneath a black tent. And it's out there, and like they're like, left ramp's not working at all. And I was like, okay. So I'm like hitting the left ramp. I'm going, I'm doing it. I'm like, that's so weird. Lift the playfield up. Now it's working. And I'm like, you're kidding me. I was like, it'll work. It's fine. I was like, okay, put it back down. Doesn't work anymore. And I'm like, what is going on? And then someone stood right here and blocked the sun. Like, and it wasn't direct sunlight either. It's just UV from around. And then I go and I hit it and it works. So I cut out a big piece of cardboard, capped the top of it right over the opto, and then it worked fine. And then it happened again to Mike Moretti. He had a James Bond Dr. No outside underneath the tent. And he's like, the opto's not working. I was like, watch this. And I covered it. I was like, try it now. And he's like, are you kidding? I'm like, no, it's just happened to me too. So the optos are definitely like, keep them away from windows.
So back to your mention about dirty optos, I've had this too, where you can actually see it in test mode. So they're supposed to be solid, and if they're not, if one of the optos is flickering, yeah, like that, but it wouldn't even make the noise. Sometimes it doesn't make the noise; it's just flickering. That's a bad opto. Or if it's dead completely, so then you know your flipper switch is not even working, so the computer's not even going to know it's supposed to do flippers.
One thing that I would really like you to touch on is whether it is a board problem or a playfield problem. Oh, a missile.
Oh, yeah. So the trough actually has pinholes in the trough. So if you put this trough on, or if you get some of the wrong ones or something like that, most of the ones that brand new trough boards should be aligned. I have had the case where, this may be many years ago, I put a trough off to a board on someone's game, and like 3 of them worked, but the 4th one did not. And if you looked at it really close, man, it was like half steel. I'm like, oh my gosh. So we actually drilled into the hole to make the hole bigger, and then now the trough was actually working. So back to making it, if it's a board problem or if it's a playfield problem, like I said, if you have it's an 8x8 grid. And if 2 switches are not working, it's a playfield problem. If all 8 are not working, you can actually test. There's ways to test. I was showing you how to do the jumper test.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
To test if it's a computer. If they all dink, then you know you're back to the playfield, broken looped wire. Many years ago, I had a switch problem in the fishtails, and I don't even know how this happened. And it was shorting 2 of them together, and I ended up completely cutting the wire here and here and running a wire, and it worked. And we actually took the wire out of the loom, and somehow it was frayed. It had about an inch of fray in it. So it must have been rubbing on something inside that black tubing to fray it. And oh man, that was not fun to find that. But anyways, we did find it, and that was.
Well, then let's go into the one that we've always wanted to go into is coils.
Coils, okay. So, gosh, I wish this could go into test mode. We are going to, I guess we're going to have to do this then. Okay. Where did I put it? One other little baggie.
Oh, right here. That one?
No.
Put it inside.
Oh, here's. We're not gonna use that. So this is something I made. I don't like to really show this, but I'm going to show it for you guys. So don't tell anybody. Copyrighted EM production. So this is just testing the playfield and the board again. So, and we're going to go over flippers and coils since we only got about 25 minutes left. So this has a safety feature. Kills the voltage. Number 1. is the popper. Yep, pull it out. So number one, if you look in the book, if you want to put the grid up on that,
Matrix.
just the grid. So if you got coil problems, that's the other thing about these games. Really, really important to have appropriate manuals, your wiring diagram. There's actually handbooks, that gives you a little synopsis of the grids and all those kind of features of lamp matrix, switch matrix, coil drives, adjustments on these, you have adjustments. It really is like my first game I ever fixed, my first board was an Asteroids board, first one I ever fixed, and it was beeping, beep, give me 3 tones or whatever it was. And in the book, it tells you 3 tones is a certain RAM. If you look at Battleship, it gives you 1 through 8, and then A through Z. And I looked at that location of that RAM, I changed it, and bam, it worked. So same thing with these books. This book has lots of detail of error codes, bongs, diagnostics, this thing right here, if it's flashing so many times, if it's bonging so many times, the book and manual tells you the coil grid is hugely important. So there's a couple of different ways. I have this thing. So, oh my gosh, Eugene, my coil is locked on. Well, I would use this thing to see if it's the board. Am I putting on 18 volts here? Why am I not working here? Oh, there it is. So my LED blinks. You see it blinking? Okay. The reason I have a 9-pin, because that way I can put it in any connector that has, everything's a 9-pin. Even though they use 8 wires, they're all keyed. There's 8 wires into a 9-pin. So my particular thing, so it's working there. You can see it working. Oh my gosh, it's locked on. So if I had this hooked up, it would be locked on. To know if it's a board problem. If it's not a board problem, if it's blinking, this is how we checked Jungle Lord. So on Tech Day, the customer brought it in. The customer actually had a replacement board that has actually a safety feature within the board if he has a shorted coil or diode. It's a very cool feature. And we're looking at it, and oh man, I go, look, let me get my thing out. Let's see if it's the board. I doubt if it's the board. It's a brand new board. We put this on it. The reset coil is fire.
Yeah, we're getting the pulse.
Get the pulse. I go, it's not the board. I guarantee it's not the board. And I'm doing something else. I was trying to work on that F14. So
I went over and I swapped out the coil. I tried to ohm out the coil to see if it had the correct ohms, and it was ohming at like 0.4, which is nothing. Like there's no resistance whatsoever. It's supposed to be reading at 4.0, and it was like way off. So I figured it was the coil. He had another coil, pulled the coil out of the board or out of the game, put a new coil in it, wired it the same way, tested it before I put it in, and it was 4.0. After I put it in, it's 0.4. And I'm like, what is happening? So Eugene walks over, and what do you say?
Oh, your coil voltage is in the wrong spot.
Yeah, had the wire on the wrong side of the
So this particular
diode.
board had a safety feature. If the coil was either reversed or the diode shorted, it just doesn't work. Also, when we were in test mode, we did notice that the lights were only dimming barely when it was trying to, I'm like, oh, something's wrong here. Oh yeah, so if we have an original board set, so let's say this was an original Jungle Lord with an original board, and that coil reversed, the transistor would go explode. If it's overfused, it actually smoke, and then you might have crazy.
So we got really lucky twice,
Yeah.
3 times almost. And then Eugene came up, and I didn't realize that those coils, it doesn't matter what way you put the diode, as long as you wire it correctly.
The power on the banded side.
Yeah.
So
That's what I learned.
here's another example of that. Gosh, Eugene, I just got my Roadshow back from you for repair. The coil fried again. So this guy sends me a board for repair. He's actually using it in a couple different games and sent it to me for transistor repair. And then I actually fixed it. And on my actual test bench, I actually have coils with diodes on them. So a coil with a diode, you have power on one side of the coil, and then you're ground, you're enable on the other side. The diode, wired correctly, only produces voltage on one side.
See if we got one.
Yeah, you can do the flipper coil. So what happens is that it pulses. I don't know, what is it, a half a second maybe, Brian? You know, you can see the pulse. It's not even half a second. And what that does is it energizes that coil as a magnet, pulls the plunger in. That's exactly how a coil works. So if you have the diode reversed and you have the ground on the banded side and the hot on that's going to go through the transistor, your drive transistor, and blow it up. So, the quick way to know the hot is the banded side of the diode.
No, the actual
Oh,
wire.
the wire, it's usually the thicker wire. The thicker wire, usually it's red, and then again, back to the book and manual, tells you coil wires are either red, red-white, Daddy East is either yellow, yellow-white, things of that nature. Not yellow-white, yellow-violet. But the book and manual tell you, but these older games, this is all red. This particular game is red, red and black. You know, it's all up here, all your coil, and gets loomed into everything. So this particular case, this guy sent me a WCP board, and my test bench has coils for firing. They all worked. And then he gets it back, Eugene, right away, the transistor blew. And go, oh my gosh, oh, something's in your cabinet. Okay, sends it back to me. I replace it, send it back to him, and he puts it in a different game, Roadshow. And as soon as I did the eye test, smokes, got black, now Ted's all black-faced. He's like, oh my gosh, what is going on? So I'm telling her, something with the board. This thing worked, your board, so gives me the board back. I'm staring at it in the light, going, what is going on? Because I changed the transistor and I'm working on it, it's working. Look at it in the light, and the very first time the transistor burnt, it burnt the trace because on WPC boards, there's no coils, diodes on these coils. The diode is on the board, and it burnt the trace that went to the banded side of the diode. So there was no diode on that particular coil for that output. So my mistake on that, and he thought that was the funniest thing. So I told him I was going to bring him up. He is actually running really late. That was Wichita Pinball Repair. He's got a company up in Wichita. You probably know him, John Elmore, great guy. So he's just thankful we found it out, because he's like, you got this great board and it's not working. What's going on? So the diodes so these games do not have diodes on the boards. So on these homebrews, I don't know. And then if you got New Stern node boards have diodes on their node boards. So this particular case, that was the problem in that. So what else do we want to talk about? So like you can see my little cool device as it runs along. Blinks every one. It's a good thing to have. You can make these in singles. I have this for the road because it's this. If you made a single with one wire and one diode, it's good to have. I don't think Marco has anything like this, right? So can I mention somebody there? Okay, so Siegecraft. Siegecraft sells test stuff, and they actually sell something like this, a little more professional than B. So, you know, if you wanted to get something for your coils to test if it's a board or a playfield problem. So let's go back to number one. So if you don't have one of these and want to get one, there's also another way you can test this. So like I said, coil number one fires, right? So if you want to test a different coil in this, you could do the same concept of tilting your lamp matrix wire. So number 7 doesn't have anything on it. Let's do number 2. So you can have the right popper now and auto plunger. So now where's number 1? I forget. Right popper. So I'm checking the right popper with the auto plunger. So you can actually do the same concept to see if your game is a board problem or a playfield problem by tilting the connector. Number 3. So my right magnet is now the popper. So you can do that along the line. I think I told you about that when you were working on the Adams family about that.
Yeah, and that's
You
what
found out it was a board problem.
I thought it was a board problem, and it wasn't. It was a connector at the bottom.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, but that showed me, using that test, that very test is what told me it wasn't a board problem, and I was able to diagnose further and go down the line, and it was just a flaky connector underneath.
Do we have anything else on coil? What do we want to talk about coils?
How to ohm them out, how to...
Oh, yeah.
Sir? So he's actually taking the connector,
I'm physically turning the connector.
like pulling it out and turning it, and then sticking the pin 1 in there to see if that is pulsing.
So, yep.
Yes.
So what that
Yes,
does is the
ground,
computer
yes.
actually fires a ground to your enable. So there's always voltage at the coil. There's always voltage at the coil. If you actually want to put up that diagram of the flippers, there's always voltage at the coil. And the computer fires a low-level logic enable signal through pre-transistor, your drive transistor, out to the coil. And that's how it fires. So by turning this, we can go down the line to, I don't know what you want to try. We'll go to 7, knocker. So knocker is now the popper. So you can actually do some things to that. So let's take this off because that is very loud. Let's do this. Let's put this back in. So that is the same, that diagram is a general theory of flippers. There's always voltage to the coil. In this particular, say Grand Lizard, when you start a game, it actually clicks your relay enable to turn your grounds on. And your grounds from the relay enable is at the very bottom. So the relay is actually not on the screen, it's those orange wires, orange violet, orange gray. So what comes out of the relay is ground and goes to those 2 orange wires. Those orange wires go to your flipper switch, which go through up to your coil. So you always have live power at the coil. It's always explained to people. Coil's a straight wire winding. You should have voltage on both sides. So let's shut this and I'll show you guys that. Where's that long jumper at? Over there. So new sterns, I don't know if new sterns have a grounding braid. Do they? I don't know. I have not.
They're in the cabinet, the ground braid. Yeah, they do have a ground braid.
Do they?
Yeah.
Okay. So, like we mentioned before, games are only supposed to last about 5 years. Coils and things like that. So things didn't fail much. Back in the late 70s and early 80s when I started, games were fairly new and did not fail much. So once in a while we had, knocker coil might have, because of the privet technology, knocker coil is the most common on these games, especially solenoids. Maybe a spoon switch got stuck and one of the pop-uppers locked on, burned the board up, things like that. But relatively, you did not have any acid damage back in the day, things like that to keep booting up. You want to show burnt connectors.
Yeah, we got corroded connectors.
So that's from a game that's been on location for many, many years. Generally, that doesn't keep a game from booting, but it definitely will make it reset and also give you audio hum like crazy. That's the last thing I want to do is blow anything up of score bit stuff. That would be bad. So No Fear doesn't pull out like other games do. Ugh. So we are live, right? Are we Memorex or are we live here? Okay. So coils, are straight wire winding. Coils always have voltage. So if you put your wire on the hot and you put it on the ground, you're gonna get the same voltage. Eugene, I only got voltage on one side. Well, your coil's open then. So, I don't have every coil memorized, but generally coils are relatively between, 5.5 to 10 ohms, depending how large they are. So same with a coil, or a flipper. Flippers are straight wire windings, 65, 65, and you might have a little difference between the hold winding. Not much on that. So flipper coils have 2 windings in one coil. Now this happens to be Fliptronic driven. So EOS switches do not operate normally like a EOS switch in this game. So this particular game, the high voltage actually goes through a EOS switch that when it flips, it actually opens and cuts to high winding coil power. It puts it to a low level winding, and that's how it holds. If you left it on holding too long, it will burn up still, but it should hold, pretty long. But nevertheless, these games are Fliptronic driven, so they're normally open. Mostly these switches are just to tell the computer that the flipper did fire. But that's on that. So you can also barely ground a coil. So which do we got here? I hate to blow anything up here. Let's do this one. Okay, you really don't want to hold that very long. So I'm actually grounding it. Just barely want to touch it. So I don't know if that's really the best way to do it. I like using my little thing or metering, to meter the voltage if it's. But sometimes it's not. Hey, my board is pulsing. Take that Jungle Lord for example.
Right.
And we actually did that. Actually, before we did that, did you guys?
We
do that?
tried to do it on Jungle Lord and it didn't fire.
Right, because that's why it was backwards, and that board had that safety feature. Okay, so yeah, that is another way to check about continuity and to make sure that you got continuity from your logic board. I've actually seen that before. In the middle of a tournament, we had a junkyard that I can't remember what was not working. I think it might have been auto fire, and the auto fire just stopped working. And headers. So the auto fire stopped working, and we're looking at it, and we're, the things in the middle of the game as we have the door open and everything, and here Imoto. So the game had like eroded pins on the connectors. This happens to be one of the GI connectors that was burnt, so you're going to have really dim GI or faded. Semi-hour, but this happened to be a coil. No, that was the switch connector. Okay, but I have seen. I got pictures of ones from coils where alkaline damage. People hate to say it's acid damage, but I mean that's what it is. It's acid. Alkaline damage is a spore, and you might. Oh, Eugene was only in the battery area. How did alkaline damage get either in my header or like that? It's a spore. It will travel in the game and attaches itself to steel. So I've had many cases where alkaline battery damage got into these switch headers. I've seen that many times where people get their boards back, or they had to get. This case, they had to get a new board. So they got a new board, and I go, look, your board had green in these headers. You're going to have them. I guarantee you're going to have it in your harness. You're going to have to repin this. So I've seen many cases of that where switches aren't working. I think we got
battery holder too.
Dennis here or Leon here. I'm working on one of the Rocky and Bullwinkles. Same thing. All the alkaline damage went down and dripped into the coil connector headers. So those harnesses are going to be needed to be repinned as well. So that is also an example of that. Going back to Dolly Parton, where a long time ago, this happens to be displays, we had a KISS game that when it warmed up, the digit actually worked. So I call those older games, they're strobe signals. You look in the book of the manual, they say ST0, ST1, strobe, that's what it means. So one of the, 10s or 100s was not working like in our KISS. And this is back in the day when boards, it was cheaper to fix instead of buying new ones. Now they're so readily available and so cheap. But nevertheless, my buddy was determined. We put an All-Tech board to test it in, worked great, flexed it, everything's great, harness was repinned, works great. Put the old board back in, the 10, I think it was the 10s digit was flickering. I'm gonna fix this. So he popped off the PIA chip, and one little pin on the 40-pin PIA chip had, put that socket up, if you got the 40-pin socket, had erosion on the pin, so on the KISS board, the strobe signals come out of the PIA chips into your boards, but this happens to be a major case of it. But one little pin had green on it, and it was not making contact, making the 10s digit go in and out.
Flicker.
Yeah. So, there's lots of cases of, could go on for stories and stories of what I've seen and done. Same with Matthew. I know we're going to wrap up here. I don't know if we did want to take a question or not, or what do you think, Imoto? This is your... Yeah, you can come to the tech area. The pinball medic, we're calling it the pinball therapy couch because there's a big couch there. Scott Martin actually coined that phrase because he came in with his Batman woes, and I'm working on a board, and he came with his Batman woes, and Eugene, please help me. So by the big giant Marco banner up in the, you can just see the giant Marco banner. I am right there, the pinball medic tent. And I'm working on boards and NV ramming things and bridge rectifiers.
And we have a plethora of techs all hanging out
yeah,
there.
and I think we're doing a fireside Q&A noon tomorrow. Doing a fireside Q&A about. Oh, in here? Okay, so I'll be part of that. If you want to come in and talk about pinball, questions and problems and things. I hope this was informative. Maybe even for you, Todd, that if you got anything out of this, you can relay this to your guys. But I really, really appreciate you guys coming out. We got another seminar coming up. It was just all day throughout the weekend. There's different seminars. But really, thank you to Matthew and Imoto, our camera girl, the AV tech crew in the back.
Thank you, guys.
Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. But yeah, we got to get the games out of here and get this cleaned up. But I hope this was somewhat informative, and we're going to have this edited somewhere in the future to go back and reference this on for the public in the future. All right? Are we good?
Thank you, guys.
Okay,
very much.
thank you.
Come hang out with us over at the Homebrew tent.
Thanks, Brian. Was it good? Did I good? Okay.